Before we get into today's story, make sure to hit that like button on this video so we can keep bringing you more. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below to share your thoughts or your own experiences. Your support is what keeps these stories coming.
This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, Emily Carter, and I wanted to share it on the channel. I have an in-ground swimming pool in my backyard. When I was house hunting, it was one of the things I considered a necessity. I swam all through high school and college, and it was always a huge part of my life. I knew that when I bought a house, it had to have a pool. That particular week had been exhausting at work, so I was determined to spend my weekend doing nothing but relaxing. I looked forward to swimming under the night sky, letting the water wash away the stress. By the time I got home on Friday evening, it was already dark. I'd swim in the pool at night many times before, so I didn't think twice. I turned on the pool lights, stepped outside, and noticed that the light in my neighbor's backyard was also on. We had a tall fence between our properties, giving me all the privacy I could ever want, so I didn't pay much attention. I slipped into the water and swam for a while, enjoying the calm, when I suddenly heard something. A small plopping sound, like something had fallen into the pool. That wasn't unusual. Leaves, bugs, or even little twigs sometimes found their way into the water. Still, I like to keep my pool clean, so I started checking. I dove under and spotted what looked like a small white rock resting at the bottom. It looked like gravel, the kind you'd find on a road or driveway. I picked it up, surfaced, and examined it. That's exactly what it was. I couldn't figure out how gravel ended up in my pool, but I set it aside and decided not to dwell on it. Moments later, another plop, then another. Before I could react, something struck me on the head. It didn't take long to realize more gravel was being thrown, this time several pieces at once. Looking around, I saw them flying over the fence, coming from my neighbor's yard. Confused, I swam to the side, trying to avoid the barrage. My neighbors and I had never spoken much, but we'd never had problems either. Why would they do this? I didn't know what to think. Before I could process it, I felt hands shoved down on my head, forcing me underwater. My heart pounded, but I tried not to panic. I had good lung capacity from years of swimming, so I focused on staying calm. I clawed at the hands pressing me down, but with no leverage, it was nearly impossible to break free. The pressure continued, and I realized with horror that whoever this was wanted me to drown. I thrashed and fought, my chest burning, when suddenly the hands released me. I shot up out of the water, gasping for air, and caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure sprinting out of my side yard. I couldn't make out any details, only that someone had been there, watching me, waiting for the moment to strike. I didn't dare chase them. Instead, I scrambled inside and called the police. When they arrived, they searched the neighbor's property. To my shock, no one was supposed to be home. My neighbors had been gone the entire week on a family vacation. The police believed that someone had been living inside their house while they were away, an intruder hiding in plain sight. Whoever it was, they had slipped into the backyard, tormented me by tossing gravel into the pool, and then tried to drown me. To this day, I don't know who it was or why they chose me. Thank you to Emily Carter for sending this terrifying story. If you have a story, send it in and it might be featured next.
This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, Emily Carter, and I wanted to share it on the channel. I don't know why so many scary stories seem to take place out in the country. Maybe it's because there are fewer people around, or because it's quieter and darker at night. Even I have a terrifying story that happened out there. When I was growing up, my parents owned a huge piece of land filled with hills, trees, and beautiful countryside. Both of them were hunters. My dad passed away before my mom did, but even in her 40s, 50s, and 60s, she still went out hunting with her rifle. In a family like that, it was expected that I would learn too. My dad taught me when I was very young. At first, I hated it. Like most kids, I didn't enjoy the idea of killing animals. But as I got older, I accepted it. We never hunted just for sport. Everything we killed was food for the table. Because I was never a big guy, I usually went for smaller game instead of deer. I especially liked squirrel hunting, but one night, when I was 15 years old, I went coon hunting. A common thing where I lived, though most people today might find it unusual. I always stayed on my family's land and preferred to hunt alone. That night, I brought my air rifle, which I had gotten for my 13th birthday, and my best hunting dog, Bruno. Bruno was incredible at tracking and loyal to the core. He always stayed right beside me, straining against his leash, eager to hunt. I trusted him more than anyone when it came to the woods. The night was perfect for hunting. The moon was full and bright, so I barely needed my flashlight. Bruno trotted alongside me as I strolled through the trees, listening to the night sounds. But he wasn't very active, which told me there weren't many raccoons around. Then suddenly, he started pulling hard on his leash. I switched on my flashlight, expecting to see the yellow flash of raccoon eyes in the trees. But I saw nothing. Normally, I would have let Bruno loose, but something about the moment felt wrong. The night was too quiet, too heavy. And then I heard it. Raccoons screaming and chittering in the distance, but not in the playful way they sometimes did. This sounded panicked, almost desperate. I finally unleashed Bruno, and he bolted toward the sounds. I ran after him, shining my light into the darkness. When I caught up to him, I saw a boy, about my age, bleeding and barely able to move. Bruno was at his side, ignoring the raccoons. The boy looked beaten and stabbed. His clothes were torn, his face pale with terror. "He's coming back! You have to help me, my leg! He's going to come back for me!" I tried to calm him down, but he was frantic. Still, I helped him to his feet, letting him lean on me. That's when Bruno barked sharply. I turned, flashlight beam sweeping across the trees, and I froze. Standing there was the most terrifying man I had ever seen. He was obese, with greasy, unkempt hair, his face marked with boils and scars. His eyes, wild and hateful, locked on us. In his hand was a hunting knife smeared with blood. He didn't flinch as Bruno charged at him. He just stood there, smiling faintly, like he was enjoying our fear. My instincts took over. I dropped the flashlight and raised my rifle. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The shot rang out through the trees. I think I hit him, but I couldn't be sure. All I know is that he finally moved, disappearing into the darkness of the forest. The boy, who I later learned was named Vance, was still bleeding badly, but alive. He took the flashlight and scanned the trees while leaning on me for support. Bruno stayed alert, ears pricked, ready to protect us. The raccoons in the trees had quieted now, though I couldn't shake the feeling that their earlier screams were more than just distress, as if they were warning us or trying to draw me to where Vance lay. We made it back to my parents' house, every step filled with dread that the man would come out of the woods again. Even when he didn't, I could feel his eyes watching us, burning through the dark. We drove Vance to the hospital, where he survived his injuries. He told me he had been out hunting alone when the stranger attacked, stabbing him without reason. He hadn't known the man. He'd just come out of the woods like a nightmare. About a month later, another dead body was found in those same woods, stabbed to death. The killer was never caught, but I knew exactly who had done it. I never hunted raccoons again after that night. Something about what happened, about the screaming animals, about that man, changed the way I looked at them. Vance recovered, and for a while we were friends, but he never hunted again either. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. Thank you to Emily Carter for sending this terrifying story. If you have a story, send it in and it might be featured next. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.